Hello, everyone, and welcome to the sixth and final installation of our Tech Talk series. We are so excited to be able to share all of the features and benefits of our Farmhand software with you today, which you can think about as the brain behind the operations of our Greenery S growing platform. It looks like we have quite the global presence across all of our attendees, so thank you to everyone who made the time to join from all over the world. And we hope that you'll find today both informative and inspiring. Also, if you didn't get a chance to watch the first 5 editions of this series, we will be posting a link in the chat section where you can go back and review those whenever you've got the time, which we definitely recommend, as it's a great way to learn about the full breadth of what our technology can do. So to begin with some brief introductions, for those of you that I haven't had the pleasure of speaking with yet, my name is John Byrne, and I'm an account executive on the business development team here at Freight Farms. And today I'm joined by the inimitable Eric Ludwig, our product guru and the mastermind behind the grand designs that you'll be seeing today. Eric, would you like to say hello?
Sure. Hi, everybody. How you doing? Great to see, or not see you, but sense all of you out there. Looking forward to sharing with you about our Farmhand software today.
Awesome. Great. So for today's session, we'll go through a quick agenda with you. We will start things off with an overview of the Greenery S system and the 5 pillars that its design are rooted in. And then Eric will be diving into the nitty-gritty of Farmhand specifically, and how the software works in parallel with our hardware to maximize farm performance, enable remote monitoring and control, provide complete transparency into your day-to-day farm operations, and grant access to our global farming community. We will leave ample time at the end for a live Q&A session. So thank you to those that have already submitted your questions, but if you haven't had a chance to, no worries. You can add those into the Q&A section of the Zoom, and we'll try to answer as many as possible today. But if your questions aren't answered, you can always reach out to your Freight Farms account executive for more info. So to kick things off, the Greenery S, it is our flagship product and the culmination of 10 years of learning and design. It is a fully modular hydroponic vertical farm housed inside of a 40-foot insulated shipping container. And the primary systems that enable our farmers to grow fresh produce 365 days of the year, regardless of climate or previous agricultural experience, are the adaptive climate control, which is made possible through our HVAC unit and the container's built-in insulation, our dynamic LED lighting, which takes the place of the sun in our photosynthetic process, our dual hydroponic systems, which are optimized for water and nutrient delivery at each stage of plant growth, our workstation and plant panels, which really allow us to maximize the physical space inside the farm so that you can grow 3 acres worth of produce in just 320 square feet. And then lastly, but certainly not least, our Farmhand software and sensors, which provide control, consistency, and clarity. Those first 4 systems that I mentioned are covered in the previous tech talks that we've done. So today we'll just be honing in on Farmhand. And so I will now pass it over to Eric for that deep dive.
Awesome. Thank you, John. And John, in the chat, there's an answer being typed in here, but if you see my background, this is our brand new S farm at the HQ. And if you talk to your account executive, they would be happy to schedule a visit. So super exciting. I took this last week when we were down at the office. So I'm going to talk to y'all about how we have built this smart farm with Farmhand. I think the super exciting thing about this amazing piece of hardware behind me, the S and Farmhand, is that we built them together so that they really take advantage of all of the best aspects of each other, and it's all purpose built and fit so that everything works together. So, right, we see Farmhand as a piece of software as your key to really being able to successfully grow in this particular container. So it provides lots of different things. I'm going to walk through them, walk through how you might, as a farmer, use the features that are inside of Farmhand and how those things can help make you successful. So we're providing this farm. We also provide the software so that you can actually run the farm. And that software takes advantage, as I said, of all the things that we have built into the S, so that all the sensors, all the lights, HVAC system, all that stuff really, we built the software around those particular components so that we can control every single aspect inside of the farm. And so here are some things that you can do with it. In the list, you can see what's going on in your farm. You can control your farm from afar, from the beach or the mountains or your house, wherever you are. We have one-touch recipes. I'll talk about what recipe means. Crop scheduling, so you can manage your farm. The farm activity logs, so you understand what's going on in your farm. Yield tracking, so that you can both see the past and think about the future, how you're going to actually successfully create your business around this freight farm. And then data analysis and performance tracking, which are pretty exciting things as well. Cool. So we'll go to the next slide here. So this is a little slice of the farm. And if you've been on other webinars, you've seen this. Essentially, this is the piece of equipment around which we have built the software. So what you'll see here is that the full farm is instrumented with a variety of different things, right? So we have cameras in the seedling area, what we call our nursery. We have cameras in the growth area, the cultivation area. We have sensors in all of the liquid tanks, both the water tanks and then the liquid nutrient tanks. And then of course we have atmospheric sensors to understand the environment of the farm. And we're able to both read data from those and then control those in an intelligent way via Farmhand. So when we think about Farmhand, we talk about Farmhand as having 4 pillars. So control, consistency, clarity, and community. And the next slides we're just going to walk through all what that means. So control, really when we think about this, the first thing that you would expect a piece of software that comes with your farm to do is control that farm, right? So everything that's going on in the farm, all those sensors I just showed you, you should be able to address those via the software. You should also be able to get a quick glance at what's going on. This is actually a screenshot from one of our test environments in the office. So you can see these cameras are not feeding you images of plants, but they're feeding you images of the office. So you're getting live views from your cameras in your farm, as well as you're able to provide individual control about particular pieces of the farm right here in this control zone. There's another view dashboard. I don't know if you can see on the left, but that again shows you some details about what's happening inside the farm. That gives you a, within the last 10 seconds reading of what's happening on any of the sensors in the farm, as well as shows you a look back at the last 12 hours of all of the data that's coming off those sensors. So you can quickly see kind of what's going on and how things are adjusting. I just got joined by my coworker, my 5-year-old son here, so please excuse any extra noise. So great, you can control your farm. Awesome. But you're running a business, right? You're selling produce to a chef or providing it to a CSA. You need to be able to do that consistently, cycle after cycle, because that restaurant's counting on you. I was talking to one of our farmers here in Massachusetts recently, and he has been in kind of a cycle with his chefs where they want to know what's coming. He's able to provide them new information about the next crop that's coming out. But he also needs to be able to consistently provide to them the same crop over and over, because they're putting in that in the recipe, their food recipe, and selling that to people at the farm. So what we've done is we've taken all of those sensors in the farm, and we have built layers of intelligence between those sensors and what you see, this interface of the software, so that when you set up things in your software, you set that. And so I'll kind of talk through what all those things are. You set those things, and then you run it, and you run it. And so if you make any adjustments, software is going to remember those things. And that way, when you have when you have produce coming off your farm, and you like what it is, you can rely on those series of settings every single time to make sure you're getting the same quality stuff, same quality produce coming off that you can provide to your customers. In this case, that farmer is selling to a chef, you're selling to a CSA, or selling direct to consumer in some other way. You also want to make sure you have consistent quality. So essentially what we have here is these this is the recipe control page, right? So that, again, you can provide that consistent growth year over year. And so you were able to control your temperature of your container, the humidity and the CO2 of that entire environment. You're also able to control the lights in the nursery zone where your seedlings are, and then the cultivation zone where your full plants are. And in each of those zones, you're also able to control the water cycle, and then the EC, the electrical conductivity, AKA how many nutrients are in your water, be able to control that, and then what the pH of the water is. And between those settings, you're able to make sure that you have the specific right environment for your crops every single time. Sorry, we're talking to the coworkers here. So, right. So I can adjust this just with a touch of a button. I don't know if y'all can read this at the top, but the software comes with preset recipes. So what we've got is we've got recipes for different crops, and then we're also able to provide preset energy consumption modes. So if you live in a place where you have variable electric rates, or you live in a place where you have cheap or free electricity or expensive electricity, or you want to adjust the growth timing of your plants, you want to slow those down or speed them up, you can do that via the energy use of the farm. And again, we've tuned these recipes particularly for different crop types. And if you've been on some of our earlier sessions, you also may have heard our crop science team is continually working on building new recipes, and we add those into the software as they become available. So you're able to get, again, a consistent growth of crops of a particular type, crop cycle after crop cycle after crop cycle. So I talked a little bit about this in the previous one. We're establishing set points with the farm. So you're setting those up on those recipe pages, and then you can walk away, right? Farmhand takes care of keeping your farm at those set points in both the daytime and the farm nighttime. So your plant has that the day and the night to establish the plant for successful growth. And again, you can go back to the dashboard of the control page to just see what's happening in the farm, make sure everything's running as per your set points, and make any changes you need to make. Within that initial control page, I will just bounce back just to prove we're live here. But here you also see on this page, we've made it really simple to do calibrations and to set the farm into what we call like a work mode or a task mode. So if you want to get in there and clean the farm, you need to do a tank changeover, or you want to clean some stuff, you want to make sure that the LED lights are off and that your pumps are off so you can get in there and clean. That's a one-touch, one-click action to make that happen. And then for calibration as well, to make sure your sensors are reading correctly, you're going to want to calibrate on a regular schedule that our CS team will provide for you. And so again, we've tried to make this as simple as possible. I come from a background of consumer product in music, and then a few years here in agriculture. And so I'm coming at this with a lens of, I want to make this as simple as possible for y'all, but we're also trying to build this so that you can really manage your whole farm and the business around your farm within the software. So where we can, we do these simple things. And then where we need to make sure that you have the complexity needed to run your business, we can do that, say, with this recipes page. I'm also going to next show you one of the things that I'm most excited about in the software, and that's our crops feature. Again, this is something where we're taking something that farmers in indoor ag and in soil ag, they have this problem, or the thing that they need to do every single year, which is track where are your plants grown and what have you done to them, when have you done that to them, so you can really keep clear records. So what we have got here, this is a view of our crops page, and this is part of our clarity pillar, right? Really thinking about, can we provide you clarity around what's happening in your farm? And can we provide you that data? Can we help you analyze it? And can we provide that data raw to you so you can do further analysis if you want to? So this crops is really a representation of that clarity function that we provide. So we've got here, this is really a kind of representation of your farm. On the left side, you'll see the nursery. You'll see the top and the bottom, and you'll see all the plants that are in there. If you were to click on one of those, it would tell you when you planted it, who planted it. If you've got multiple people in your farm, you want to know which person planted that and what date they planted it on, how many seeds they actually planted. And then it'll tell you an estimated transplant date. So, again, in talking with lots of different farmers, I was talking with a farmer in Indiana, and he was really thinking about, okay, when is this stuff going to be ready for transplant? Has a good sense of when that might be, but wants a specific date so he can make sure somebody's at the farm to do that transplant. So within this crops feature, we're showing all that data. You can obviously edit it if you need to, but we're going to provide intelligence around, okay, we know how long a radish sits in the nursery station before it's ready for transplant. So we're going to provide you an estimated date so you can plan your work around that. Similarly, on the right-hand side, we've got the cultivation area. And there we've got a representation of all the plants that are in your cultivation walls. So if you've seen photos of our farms, the plants grow vertically in these panels hung from these racks on the ceiling. So these are all the plants that are in there. And again, if you click on one of those things, you're going to see the data was seeded, who seeded it, how long it was in the nursery, when it was transplanted, and you're going to also see a rough estimate of when you will harvest that. So again, you can really plan out your work schedule. Now, all this data that is collected here on this page, we make available to you in another section called production of Farmhand. And so you can go into production and you can look at that over the past months and years. So again, typically the way that this happens, I usually have a little notebook here that I use for emphasis, but our farmers will grab a notebook or an Excel file and they'll put all this data in these things. A couple of farmers have sent me their Excel files, and they're these massive Excel files where they're tracking all these different things. We're capturing all of that data right here in a really easy to use way. And then we expose that back to you in production so that you can see trends over time. You can download that data and do further analysis on that data. And then we also help you visualize kind of what's going on in the farm in a bunch of different ways in the production section and another section we call analysis. So this is a view of that analysis section. So not only can you look at the data you have from your crops and kind of the cycles that are going on there, but remember those sensors we talked about at the very beginning of this, all those sensors, we're capturing that data, holding that data. And then if you want to look at that over time and you want to put different sensors against each other so you can see how they might impact each other, you can do that. In this is a screenshot of a couple example analyses that I created. The top one has the nursery EC, the amount of nutrients in the water, the temperature of the water in the nursery, and then the air temperature in the container. So you can see a drop in both the air and water temperature when the farm hits its night mode. And then at that point, you also see the EC build up because the plants aren't taking that up. So just a little analysis to kind of show you, you can build any of the sensors. You can build an analysis off any of the sensors or combination of those sensors in the farm within Farmhand. So again, you can also download this and play with it if you want to, but really we've put this inside of Farmhand to make it as easy as possible for you to understand what's going on your farm. And then in the production section, understand how that impacts your business. In production, you can also track how much you're getting on a cost basis per unit of piece of produce that you're growing in your farm. So again, you can really map out your entire business. And we're holding all this data, for you, so you can look back as far as you want on this. And finally, our community. So we have recently added a brand new community. This also includes a knowledge base or a series of knowledge bases, so that we have an amazing customer support team. And tell a little story. Our customer support team, obviously, we've been around for a long time. Our customer support team has seen a lot and heard a lot, helped people with lots of different things. And we also have the biggest network of farmers in the world, I think, who are farming in this particular kind of environment, right? So we have this community to enable conversation among that community. So if our CS team can help you, probably another farmer can, or if you run into something really exciting, you want to share that, you can do that here. So we've got this community to really help people learn from other folks and share with other folks. So one of our farmers, our CS team, um, he something happened with his farm that the CS team had never seen. He did a ton of research, did a bunch of experiments, posted all that in the community so that other farmers can figure it out. And it's been really interesting conversation around that particular case in the community. So it's a fabulous learning resource for all of our farmers. And obviously you want to talk about your business or your crops or the actual farm, there's space for all of that here. So I ran through stuff, I think fairly quickly, wanted to leave some time for questions. We have some questions that came in before the session started, and then we have these live questions. So we'll try and answer as many of all of these as we can.
Yeah. Thanks,
John.
yeah. Thanks, Eric. That was awesome. I mean, obviously I'm biased working at the company, but I'm still so inspired by what you and your team have built. And like you said in the beginning, what's so cool about Farmhand is that it was built in conjunction with the Greenery S. And it really is a reflection of all the things that we have learned since our infancy as a company to this very mature phase that we're at now. And things like community and crop scheduling are all things that farmers have raised their hand in the past and asked for improvements on. And that's our motto as a company. And you can view Farmhand as a living and breathing entity that's going to continue to evolve and improve with your farming operations. But enough for me. We've got plenty of questions to get through here. So first one, do I need a Farmhand subscription to operate a farm? I can start to answer that for you and say
Sure.
that no, technically you don't. But your operations will be very limited, and maybe you can shed a little more light on why that is.
Sure. Yeah. So, when we talked about the ability to capture and store all of that data and the ability to provide updates to the recipes and provide new recipes, all of that stuff is part of what you're subscribing to. So if you're buying a farm, obviously you want to be able to operate that farm. We do have a subscription for the software. And if you want to get the full set of features, you'll need to actually subscribe. But you can operate your farm without a subscription. You can also operate it offline. So if you don't have a subscription, you'll essentially be in offline mode in perpetuity until you subscribe. The offline mode allows you to operate the farm in the case of the internet goes down or you're not able to connect to the internet for some reason. You can still connect to Farmhand or use Farmhand to connect to your farm and operate your farm.
Yep. And the other thing to think about there is in those cases where you've got an internet outage or a storm, you have loss of access to power, that ties back to the insulation rating of the farm, in the sense that you not only will be able to operate the farm in offline mode if need be, but because of the insulation rating of our containers, you have a good 48 hours before any real damage is done to the crops in the event that you have an extended lack of access to power. Next question here. How does it work with multiple farms and multiple users working within one subscription?
Yeah, so your subscription to Farmhand allows you to have multiple users. So, I talked about you being able to see which user did a seeding or transplant operation or calibrated your farm. So you're going to get a set of users. I think it's 6 users that come with the subscription. You can obviously, push that up if you want to. There's some small incremental cost for each additional user. If you get additional farms, each farm would need its own subscription, but there's a price break on the second subscription, and your account exec can give you the exact numbers on all that stuff.
Yep. And we also have the ability to schedule demos of our software with you if you'd like. We can take you through what it would look like in the main dashboard so that you can actually see an operation with multiple farms and how you can drill into the specific data for each one. Another great thing to think about with that is that our client services team, which is our technical support arm, they have access to Farmhand in the same way, so that when you get on a call with them, let's say you're trying to optimize the right size for your lettuce head, they'll be able to access your farm specifically in Farmhand as well, so that it's really as hands-on as possible, and we're able to provide that support even if it's remote. So next question here, will Farmhand identify any clashing crop varieties that have conflicting nutrient requirements between the subdivided areas?
Great question. So, essentially each farm has 2 areas, right? You have your nursery and your cultivation. And you obviously have different places within each of those. So in your cultivation, you have 4 walls. You can adjust certain things within that environment, to have them be different wall to wall, the lights, for example. However, there's one water tank for the entire cultivation zone. And so your question is a great one because it gets at, right, if I want to grow 2 things that have very different nutrient requirements, could I do that? So you have one water tank. So we're going to recommend that you grow crops that have a similar profile in terms of need for nutrients, certainly, and also timing of watering. And then because the farm has a shared environmental control, so your air temperature and your humidity and your CO2 levels are going to be constant through the farm. Again, you're going to want to have plants that have a compatible kind of range of those things. Now, and when you see, this is a behind the live Q&A image, there's an image of the crops view. When you start to plant your crops, so this is maybe getting to the answer of your question. So I set it up, now I'll answer it. So you click on the plus, you start to seed, and you say, this is what I want to do. I want to grow, I want to grow this crop, and maybe I've got some other stuff in there. The software will be telling you, okay, hey, you want to plant turnips, and you've got basil. There's a different nutrient profile. Maybe look at these other ones. In our knowledge base, also, we have information about which crops grow well together. We call that intercropping. So which crops you can intercrop or co-grow if you've got, so one of our farmers does tons and tons of lettuce, and then on the end caps, he always does basil. Just that's how he likes to do it. His environment is optimized for the lettuce, but the basil grows pretty well anyways, because basil's, basil does that. So we can certainly provide you recommendations in the knowledge base about what crops grow together. And then in the community, there's always robust discussion among farmers about, oh yeah, I'm growing this and I'm also growing this. Have you tried this with this? So there's lots of places that you can get that information. Some of that will be driven by the software. Some of that will be driven by the knowledge base and our CS team. Some of that will be driven by your peers in the farming community and what they do.
Yeah, and I would just add to that as well, you've got resources everywhere you turn, not only within the knowledge base, but also with your account executives, your client services team. And as you're getting through that onboarding process and beginning your training, these are great questions to bring up as well. I'm considering growing these 6 crops. What are your recommendations in terms of how to set up the farm for the best success? So as I mentioned earlier, we really are hands-on here, but Eric, great job answering that one, because I think it's something that a lot of people are considering. Most of our farmers are growing multiple crops at once, which helps with your business plan because you have a diversity of products to offer your various consumers. Next question, how is yield data collected? Do users have to manually key it in?
Yeah, great question. So right now, you are prompted by the software, how much of this thing do you want to grow? At the very beginning of your seeding journey. And when you transplant, we're also going to ask you how much of that did you transplant, and you'll, as you said, manually key that in. And then when you harvest, we ask you to manually key in that information as well. So we're really at the beginning of, I think, the power of Farmhand and what it can do, because we have those 6 cameras in the farm, we have that data that you're giving us. So where we're headed is a place where we can provide estimates about what that yield might be. And then, obviously you're going to need to verify that in some way, whether you put that on a smart scale that's connected back to the software. Just that's not part of it right now, but it might be in, the future, or you continue to manually key it in. Obviously with any harvest, right? Ultimately, I think manual entry of that is probably the best way to do it anyways. Even if you've got you're trimming lettuce into a bin, you're probably going to want to weigh that bin before you deliver it anyway. So you're going to do that. What we've tried to do is make that entry as easy as possible and make sure it feeds into the rest of your crop data so that you can clearly draw a line between, I did these things, I ran this recipe, I used these nutrients, I got this amount of yield, I got this amount of revenue from that harvest when I sold it, so that you can track that stuff, see it over time. Really, again, this Farmhand software should be the centerpiece of not only how you run your farm, but it should also help drive your business. So that's how we think about that. Long way of answering, do you manually key in the harvest data? The answer is yes. Right now, that's part of this larger suite of software.
Absolutely. And I think that that tees up the next question really well. Thinking about the business side of things, how does the software benefit the financial aspects of the business? Is there a QuickBooks like / accounting feature? One thing I was just thinking about, Eric, is sort of being able to anticipate that sales data that was implemented into the crop scheduling. So curious to hear what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, so right now we provide that data back to you in the production view, so you can see all of that. You're able to download that. You could upload that into your QuickBooks or something else, as CSV data file. So you could upload that into your QuickBooks or your other accounting software. You could send it to your accountant, have them deal with that. In the time that I have been in ag tech software, this is a kind of constant theme about great, cool, like help with the grow, but actually, right, this is a business, right? So we actually do need to connect to these other systems. So what we're doing is trying to figure out which systems are the going to provide the most value to you as a farmer, and how might we connect to those in a way that's going to help you drive your business forward. And so we're continually looking at those things and evaluating, what do we think is the best solution for our farmers. And so, that might look like connection to QuickBooks directly, or that might look like connection to some other piece of software that lots of farmers use to run their business. Some of our farmers are selling directly. So do we directly connect to a point of sale or something like that? There's lots of different ways that we might help you run your business. And this is part of, when you purchase a farm, you can look forward to questions from me in the community about, hey, how do you do this? Because I'm constantly in conversation with our farmers to find out what they're doing and how we might help our software better meet their needs.
Yeah, and I think that really ties back to the community aspect of what we do, because we have a brilliant research and development team at our headquarters in Boston, but our farmers play a critical role in that process as well. So, I would also view Farmhand, the 2.0 software that Eric has built, as having created the infrastructure to be able to continue to adapt to our farmers' needs. So these are all great questions and points that we're going to continue to take into consideration as we improve and adapt our software. Which again tees up to another great question. How should they think about software upgrades? Will it be like a typical Apple product upgrade? Is it automatic, or do they have to allow it to activate? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I think great question. Again, I think, thinking about it like OS upgrades is exactly the way to think about that. We're testing these pretty heavily, very heavily, before we roll them out. The number one requirement of this software is it needs to control your farm and not have downtime. So, we're going to be rolling these out, say, fairly conservatively, but they will roll out to the whole network. And you should, I think, thinking about them like OS upgrades is a really good way to think about them.
Awesome. Another important question: how much does Farmhand cost? I can take this one. An annual subscription to Farmhand is $2,400 or $200 per month. And then, as Eric mentioned, there are savings as you add additional farms to your operation. So each additional farm would be an extra $100 per month. So it's something that, as you're speaking with your account executive and you're looking at the horizon of your business planning, we provide a business planning tool which has fields for your Farmhand subscription, and we can work with you on how to best think about those operating costs to really maximize profitability. An interesting question here, Eric: is Farmhand available for other farms manufactured by other companies, whether they be container farms, greenhouse grows, and kind of how we're thinking about the future of Farmhand's evolution as it relates to controlled environment agriculture?
Yeah, I would say on that, I think two-word answer on that: stay tuned. Right now, our software controls our farms.
And then, is Farmhand technical support 24 hours?
I don't believe it is. John, do you know? I think we have regular business hours that are our reps return calls and are available for immediate pickup. But
yeah, so the technical support that we provide would be standard business hours on Eastern Standard Time for calls, but you can always email our team. And then there's going to be an evolved sort of chat function within the Farmhand software as well for you to be able to ask questions directly that way. But through our training, you really will be equipped to manage or troubleshoot pretty much any issue that you may encounter with 10 plus years experience operating these farms. Our technicians have seen everything that you can imagine. And from our headquarters in Boston, they are supporting everyone from the northern reaches of Alaska to the deserts of Dubai to parts of Southeast Asia. So
Tasmania, we have a farmer in Tasmania I spoke with the other week. So did some
yeah.
testing of the software with him. Yeah, all over.
Yeah,
And
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I spent a lot of time talking about the kind of fun features in Farmhand. One other thing I didn't touch on is our notifications and alerts engine that we have in the software. So we have alerts and notifications built in there. You can create your own based on whatever you want to. So if you're worried about a particular sensor, it's been acting up, you can just create an alert that will send you an SMS and an email, or an email, whatever you choose. And so you'll get that. We're also in development of our mobile Farmhand apps, both for Android and iOS platforms. So those should be live in very early 2022. So, potentially end of this year, but very, very early, like January of 2022. That will expand the alert and notification capacity, including by letting you have native notifications. So, on like any of your phone apps, if you get an in-app notification, those will also be available to you. So when we think about support, we think about it as we want to empower you with all the information about your farm, so you know what's going on, so you know when you might have a problem. And then obviously the community is there to answer questions, probably not, maybe not of an urgent variety. And then we have our CS team there to handle any of those things that might come up. But we really want to get ahead of that so that you understand your farm. The software helps you do that. So if there is something going on, you hopefully it's not a surprise, right? You've been looking at it, trying to figure out how to fix it before it gets to some critical juncture.
Awesome. Okay, and I think we're going to do one more question before we wrap up here, because we are a little bit over time. The question is, how long is the training for Farmhand? And when it comes to overall training for our system, both hardware and software, we have a variety of different options. The most popular, especially since the pandemic hit, has been our virtual farm camp series, which is 3 days of courses that runs you through everything that you would need to know on how to operate the farm, from seeding, transplanting, harvesting, cleaning, maintenance, as well as Farmhand. So Farmhand will be a critical component of that training, but it's also something that you will continue to perfect over time, because there are a ton of capabilities within the software, and we absolutely want to make sure that our farmers are fully aware on how to take best advantage of that. But our thorough training that happens through our Farm Camp series has so far been more than sufficient on equipping people with what they need to know. But again, you've got a bunch of resources at your fingertips if there's ever more that you're looking to understand. And the knowledge base, I think I'll always point people back towards within the software as your sort of living and breathing resource.
Yeah, we've also got an academy, which is a series of online learning modules. So if you have somebody new come on your team and you want to get them up to speed, you can put them in the academy and they can do that. They could also attend another one of our farm camps. Really, the academy and the community knowledge base are really, depending on what you need to learn, right? Do you need to learn general hydroponics, general plant health? Do you need to learn about the farm itself or the software? We've got information and modules and learning components for each of those things. Really, we want to make sure you're fully supported.
Absolutely. So with that, want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in. We really appreciate it. And I hope that you have enjoyed the entire Tech Talk series. This is the final one, and we will be sending out links to every episode that we've filmed so far, so that you can stay up to speed on all of the aspects of our Greenery S system. And if you do have any other questions, please do reach out to your Freight Farms account executive. If you do not have a Freight Farms account executive yet, you can reach out to hello@freightfarms.com, and we will make sure that we're answering everything and anything that you need to know. But thanks again for joining us, and I hope that everyone has a great rest of their evening.
Thank you all. Take care.